Hello everyone and welcome back to newearth.land. Just a quick video this time on, what is post-capitalism? What is it I'm actually meaning when I say that? Because, post obviously meaning after, it sort of like suggests that, you're going from one social model to exclusively another one. And so I guess in most people's minds, they would be thinking, well, that means that you're left-leaning and that you're a socialist and perhaps even a communist. But I think what we need to understand is that there's always shades of grey between these two poles, isn't there? So, and when we look at the sort of horseshoe of politics, the left and the right, extreme left and right, we know that these things merge back to eventually sort of be, not opposites, but oppo-sames almost, right? And so, we understand that whether it's Hitler or it's Stalin, they're all into the gulags, they're all into the concentration camps, centralisation of power, military control, so there's not much difference between those two things really, is there? But in the middle is a shade of grey, which we might call true freedom. And so what I'm referring to when I say post-capitalism is simply like a minor crumbling, disintegration of the existing structure, which we can call capitalism, which is ultimately the commodification of everything, isn't it? Everything has some sort of token assigned to it. But what I'm saying here at newearth.land is that, the things that we ultimately need for our survival, not want, but actually physiologically need and require, those things surely have to be human rights if we're moving, indeed, in the right direction. And of course we're not, are we? Because we don't hear that being suggested or even muttered even, in political circles. House of Commons, they're talking about relatively trivial affairs in comparison to our own freedom and poverty, So people, there's almost like, there's been a normalisation of our rent slavery by way of it being sort of like taboo to talk of freedom. And those things, those subjects often just get discarded, as just sort of implausible idealism. But absolutely, like these things, true freedom can exist, rent and bills, those things can be, a part of the past if we're simply willing to come together and do what Martin Luther King said, which was that we need to ultimately, those who love peace must learn to organise themselves as effectively as those who love war, to quote him. And, that's ultimately what we need, because we've got the technologies, haven't we? We've got the internet, we've got social media, we've got a way, there's some channels on here that are way over 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5, 10 million perhaps, 15, I don't know what the biggest channel is now. But can you imagine the power that we can have if we can organise ourselves for a divine purpose, and that is to liberate ourselves, emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, as Bob Marley also said. And so post-capitalism is simply the decommodification, i.e. these things will become human rights, of shelter, energy, food and water, okay? Those things, which when we look at the Maslow hierarchy, are fundamental to our existence, and they would occupy these two lower sections here of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And so what I'm saying is that is a big struggle for a lot of us to reach self-actualization and for us to live the lives that we truly want to live. We've got to climb all these things, and it starts with paying rent just to stay warm at night. And, in the year 2024, you'd hope that, someone would have looked back in the 80s and thought, well, surely we would have overcome certain things by then. But seemingly things are getting worse. So what we want to do, really, is we want to remove that, from financial control, okay? And we can do that by, check this out, right? Turn that on and then move that over there like that, right? Make those things human rights. Okay, so that would simply be shelter, energy, food and water, and those things can all be provided from the comfort of our own homes in these post-capitalist autonomous co-housing projects, which I'm proposing here at newearth.land, which you can check out in more detail online, of course. And so once that is the case, this will no longer be a big struggle. We can get rid of the big struggle. And it's not that, like I say, everyone's just going to be watching paint dry, and just sitting around being, we're totally free now, like turning into these hippies. It's like, no, like what's happening now is that because these things have become human rights, we now have this small struggle, given the fact that we've come together and we've decided democratically, transparently, that the money that should be spent on our tax should be going towards housing for humanity, housing for people, not profit, okay? And then these things that are keeping us just running around in the rat race will suddenly, all that time will now be occupied by yourself finding your purpose, finding your bliss in life, And that's what we really want to be experiencing is, bliss is our birthright. And we should all be ultimately pursuing the hobbies and careers that we want to, okay? So sometimes it's very difficult in this society because we get sort of led down the garden path through education. We get forced into these compartments and you've got to go do this, you've got to do that, right? And before you know it, you're in the sort of, like I say, the rat race, and, the material world where you're just going to work and you're going home again and then you're going back to work. Just like I was showing you the other day, wasn't I, with that diagram. What was it? I can't find it now. But, just the little geezer running around in circles. And so, like, that feels like, what we're doing financially, where you've got to basically just make ends meet and just keep, you earn your money, then you give from the rich, and then you give it back, to your landlord or whatever at the end of the month. And so we're just plateauing, for me, in my overdraft, frankly. And it doesn't need to be this way, though. That's what's so frustrating. It doesn't need to be this way at all. Because, like I say, what's the biggest YouTube channels out there? 15 million people could be 15 million pounds if we say, okay, we are the people, we are the power, we are the 99%. We are ultimately the government. How many, is it 8 billion people on the planet? How many of those are politicians, okay? And there are no politicians nor petitions required for us to come together on social media, see that we are the ones we've been waiting for, chip in £1, chip in however much you want to chip in. But the point is that if everyone represented £1, we'd have as many pounds as we would subscribers, and we'd be able to reclaim our land, hold it in common, dilute power and fulfill our immediate physiological needs through the design of these co-housing projects, which I say you can check out at newearth.land. So that in a nutshell, as we sort of move now, change gear towards discussing some more like deeper subjects and spirituality, how we can raise human consciousness for this solution, is just a quick video there about, post-capitalism not being this kind of like sort of almost inconceivable alternative that, people will just sit around and go, oh no, what about this, what about... It's like, no, if we had the money already, if I had the money now, we could easily buy a plot of land and start designing and building this, and it would be done, okay? And it would just simply be a representation of our true desire, which is what the government should be doing. They should be representing us, and it should be democratically constructed. The housing, of course, it isn't. They're just building things, calling it social housing, and it's frankly just 80% of market rate, which is insane. So it's still insane, like I've said in previous videos. But yeah, next time then we're going to be delving into consciousness. What is consciousness? It's going to get mind-blowing. So if you want your mind blown, do come back next time, which will probably be early next week when I just put some stuff together. I'm quite liking this new format. I think for the time being, it's sort of just going to be walking through this with me, brainstorming stuff. It's going to be quite sketchy, but if we ever get even just 1,000 subscribers on here, we can start doing these videos in a more professional context and perhaps start collaborating with people and getting the ball moving in that way. So it's going to take some time, but if we have dedication and we have the desire, we can absolutely start living more abundantly and more freely on this planet. Thanks very much for watching.